Basically, what we know from the Pfizer data is that the efficacy of the vaccine is around 50% after the first dose. And what we know now from those two healthcare providers, Clalit and Maccabi, is that indeed it is between 30 and 60% in real life, which is most important. But I want to be very cautious about those numbers. I mean, we do believe that there is an effect, but these are really preliminary results. It's really dependent on the sample of the population that was tested. You know, we do not have, at least for that moment, we cannot really compare those numbers because we do not know the ages, you know, the respective ages of those populations. We do not know the geographic location of those two populations. So I think it's a little bit very difficult to compare those numbers. But what we can say, at least for the moment, is that also in real life, we are able to recapitulate the results from Pfizer, whether it will be 33, 40% or 60% or in between, which is this 50%, is really encouraging.
Okay, let's talk about another point that was brought up, and that is how contagious a person is, or whether they can transfer or not the virus to others after they had already received at least the first shot. We don't know yet really about the second shot, only from clinical trials. What have you figured out regarding that point so far from the vaccine as it was rolled out so far?
Yeah, so basically the problem was that, in the Pfizer clinical trial, they did not test for this kind of, I would say, outcome, meaning transmission of the virus. They could clearly show that when you get the vaccine, you see a reduction in the number of symptoms and cases, etc. But we didn't have data about that. On the other hand, I have to say that we have scarce data from the Moderna trial that might show a reduction in the transmission of the virus around 60%, which is actually, these are good news because we are still waiting to hear and to see. After the first dose, we are still, I would say, not clear about that thing. This is actually tested, but to do such a test about the transmission or such an assumption, you need to test really in a broad way, you know, take the people that were vaccinated and do at least a daily PCR to see, you know, what is the number of viruses that, you know, they have or they are shedding compared to a population that is not vaccinated. So again, this is our assumption that the vaccine will prevent transmission, especially as we know that the vaccine contributes to a person being asymptomatic, and we know that asymptomatic people are transmitting less virus. So right now we have only assumptions. We need to test that. It's going to take some time.
Okay, one last question. Are you aware of more children that are getting infected recently? We're getting reports that due to the different variants of the virus, especially the British one, maybe the South African as well, that are more violent, more children are getting it, and there is no vaccine for kids. Can you confirm that there's indeed more kids who are getting it, and what can or should be done, in your opinion?
Okay, so the first thing is that indeed we are hearing about more contaminations, in different reports. But on the other hand, I have to tell you that the good news is that the British and the South African variant do not appear to cause a more severe disease. And when we know that kids usually do not develop symptoms or are not severely sick, so we can hope that even if kids are infected at a higher rate, this will not cause any, I would say, problematic development with that. The other thing we have to take into account is that after the population will be vaccinated, we will still have to deal with infections in schools, in environments where kids are not vaccinated. And this is actually what we are trying to I think, decide how to proceed.
Okay.